Experts are still discussing the outcome of the Copenhagen Conference on Climate Change in Denmark last year. While some find the outcome disappointing, environmental experts fault the media and scientists for not reporting the science of climate change. Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism organized this forum in Oxford University to deliberate on what happened to science in Copenhagen.
It's perfectly understandable that much of the coverage of Copenhagen should be about the politics, but it should not be to the complete exclusion of the science, because at the end of the day, the deal that the politicians make has to be a deal that the best scientific opinion thinks is adequate. The politicians aren't scientists, most journalists aren't scientists, virtually all the politicians are not scientists. So we cannot entrust the future of the planet or the future of Nigeria entirely to politicians. We have to bring in scientific opinion. And the scientists are reluctant sometimes to come forward, but they need to be encouraged to do this, because at the end of the day, whether the deal that will be done in Mexico or wherever the deal, will it be good enough for Nigeria?
I personally think that it's much more important that scientists do engage with the media. They are the people who have really important research about the future of the planet. They need to engage with the media because the media is one of the ways that they can get out a message about the importance of climate change. I think it is worrying in the sense that NGOs, who absolutely have a right to have a very powerful voice, get quoted far more often than scientists. And NGOs, of course, they have an agenda, where scientists, I think, or equally importantly, should be in the media giving their point of view about the importance of climate change.
Journalists from around the world were sponsored by the British Council to the Reuters Institute to improve their relationship with scientists for the public's understanding of climate science.
The British Council is keen to help journalists in countries around the world to enhance their understandings and skills in reporting climate change, because climate change has so many facets to it. It's the climate science, but there's also the political, the social, the economic, the health issues around climate change. And we've found from our work, particularly in China, that one of the good ways to help facilitate understanding is also to help create dialogue. There's lots of issues between understanding of China's role, India, the impacts on Africa, and a great way to really get to the bottom of those issues is to bring the people from those countries together to talk about it.
Journalists in a country like Nigeria and many other African countries can do a couple of things. One thing they can do is get together as journalists. At the moment, you've got lots of individual journalists who are talking about climate change in their papers, facing these challenges with their editors, struggling to get local stories. It would be a very good thing to team up, form associations, share knowledge, share experiences, but also make contacts with your local scientific community. There are plenty of scientists in Nigeria. There are lots of them, but they aren't really in the public eye. They aren't really talking to the media very much. And so what needs to happen is a trust-building exercise between the scientists and the journalists. Too long now, scientists have been scared of talking to journalists because journalists get things wrong. And that's a problem. But journalists only get things wrong because they haven't had the opportunity to really talk properly to scientists. And when you get the two together, you'll find that both groups have got very similar things in common. They're interested in information, they're interested in the truth, they're interested in improvements for their country and their communities, and they just have different timescales that they operate on. And once the two sides understand how the other one works, you'll find that there is some really good benefits that can come out of a working relationship.
Since climate change is considered a complex subject, the media practitioners are expected to give their stories a human face and expose the politics surrounding the global issue.
But we do need a target, and it's quite a good choice. I also think that the measurement, reporting and verification conditions that were in the Accord are a very good idea. We need to know where all the different countries are going to be at. We need to work out how to do carbon accounting, because any way of pricing it or capping quantities or regulating its use require us to know how much we're going to how much revenue is going to be generated from this. We need to know what the price implications are.
The job of the media is to report the extraordinary inequality of impact of the climate change in terms of the way it affects poor people compared to how it's affecting, of course, richer nations. And it's the richer nations that are able to absorb much of this impact. We can build sea walls in Britain and Holland. We can also, for instance, spend twice as much on the cooling systems in the London Underground as the whole of the rich world is spending on supporting the adaptation of least developed countries. Now, for me, that's an obscene figure, and we need journalists to get that story out.
As the world prepares for the 16th conference in Mexico later this year, climate watchers hope scientists and the media would develop a better relationship to encourage everyone to think locally but act globally. In Oxford, Vivian Irikefe, STV News.